Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. Right, you're probably wondering just what on earth is going on with the title page and UK exclusive. Well, I want to tell you a story. As you probably know, each month I kindly get sent a nice little box of samples by Hunter Lang, and just like to say again, big thank you to the company for that. I mean, it's really appreciated. But anyway, back in I think it was March of last year, the box of samples turned up, and on each of the labels they have a code. So they use OMC for Old Malt Cask and HEP for Hepburn's Choice, etc., etc. But there was three samples, I think, off the top of my head: a Glengarry, a Glen Grant, and a Clynelish, I believe, with the code EDI. And I thought, EDI? What's all that about? Looked at the lists, and there's no mention of this EDI business. So I phoned up Hunter Lang, and they said, "Oh, we're really sorry about that. You shouldn't have received them. This particular range is just export only." So I thought, oh, fair enough. So I tasted them, wrote my notes, put them up on the WordPress blog, and thought no more of it until last month, when yet again box from Hunter Lang turns up. Lo and behold, a number of samples with the code EDI, and I'm thinking, oh, they probably just sent me the wrong box again, and tasted them, and and then this month box turns up again. I think you're kind of getting the gist of this one. Lo and behold, yet another sample saying EDI, and I'm thinking, I wonder whether these are actually going to be released onto the UK market. And so picked up the phone, phoned up Hunter Lang, asked the question, and lo and behold, yes, they are indeed going to be launched on the UK market. And this is the exclusive bit. Not going to be released until January of next year. So there you go. This is a complete exclusive. First tasting, on YouTube, and well, I hope it's the first tasting on YouTube anyway, of these particular bottlings. You probably want to know who they are. Well, the company is called Edition Spirits. So now I can run the proper entry. Okay, so Edition Spirits. Who are Edition Spirits? You're probably asking. Well, the company was founded, I believe, in 2011 by Andrew and Scott Lang, hence the Hunter Lang connection. Both Andrew and Scott are sons of Stuart Lang, who is obviously head of Hunter Lang. And when the company was originally all called Douglas Lang, obviously, I'm guessing that they didn't want these particular bottlings in the UK market because it's pretty crowded, and although in saying that, the two companies split, it's even more crowded. But apparently these bottlings, single cask bottlings at natural cask strength, were only available, I think, in the Far East and in America. So those of you watching in those countries probably know of them anyway, but obviously you guys in the UK probably never heard of them. Anyway, so with the split in the company, both Andrew and Scott are now part of Hunter Lang, and it would appear that they have, Hunter Lang themselves, have kind of incorporated Edition Spirits, and these will now be renamed, relabeled, repackaged as the first edition. So it will be interesting to see what they come up with. But obviously the selection we're going to be looking at this afternoon are obviously currently available, and I think they're only still currently available in the export markets. So but anyway, it gives us an opportunity to look at some single cask bottlings and judge just how good or not so good, as the case may be, the stuff they're releasing is. So anyway, this afternoon we're going to kick off with an 18-year-old Linkwood, which was distilled in 1997, bottled this year at 59.5%. Then we're going to move on to another 18-year-old, a Ben Nevis. This was distilled in 1996 and bottled this year, and the bottling ABV is 46.5. Next we'll be looking at a Jura. Yes, a Jura. This was 24 years old, distilled in 1991, again bottled this year, and bottled at 50.5%. More raised eyebrows. A Tobermory. Yes, indeed. A 21-year-old Tobermory, no less. Distilled in 1994 and bottled this year at 58.6%. Then we'll be moving on to two Islers. We have here a 25-year-old Booner. Looking forward to that. This was distilled in 1989, again bottled this year at 49.4. And finally, we'll finish with a Laphroaig. I mean, why not? You know, it's a nice apt point to finish tasting on. This is possibly distilled in either 1996 or 97. I don't know exactly which, but it's 19 years old anyway. And bottled at 56.5%. So, here we go then, the first tasting of Edition Spirits. Isn't this exciting stuff? Come on, work with me here. Anyway, right, let's start tasting then, shall we? Right, okay, so let's see what this Linkwood gives us then, shall we? Quite dusty, quite spicy, in a sort of soft, kind of spicy way, I guess. Some lovely citrus notes, some lemon, lime, a little bit of toasty oak, a little bit of toffee. Kind of classic, really. It's sort of, you know, it's Linkwood. Nicely balanced. A little bit of coffee coming through. Really quite pleasant. Palate. Nice and herbal. Almost kind of refilly sherry kind of herbalness, but it's a refill hoggy, bourbon hoggy. Some nice barley again. Really nice crisp citrus, almost granity kind of finish. Nice and full. A little bit of honey, a little bit more oak on the palate, a little bit more of the toffee, a little bit of creaminess to it. Nice bite, spiciness on the finish. So, just that's a lovely sort of 18-year-old Linkwood, you know. Really nice starter, I think. Okay, so let's move on to the Ben Nevis. Let's see what the nose gives us on this then, shall we? Again, fresh, white fruits, quite citric, a little bit of almost kind of pulped fruit, almost kind of like a agave-like, quite malty. It's got that sort of, I guess that's kind of almost baked pulped fruit, and that sort of slightly bready character that I often tend to sort of find with Ben Nevis. That's certainly all there, so kind of ticks all the boxes for distillery character and things like that. Some nice barley, it's full, it's crisp. Probably a little bit fresher than some Ben Nevises I've come across. Very nice, really impressive. Palate. Okay, lovely, absolutely gorgeous. Lovely fruity finish. Very soft and very long. Again, plenty of citrus fruit, some barley, some baked fruit. Again, that slightly bready kind of character of the distillery. Lovely kind of minerality and quite citrus, but it's got some nice the barley and the rich fruit is kind of balancing it up quite nicely. So it finishes quite fresh and clean, but it's got some definite weight, which is, you know, again a kind of like a characteristic of the distillery. So yeah, yet another very good bottling. Okay, and on to the Jura. Let's see what the nose gives us on this then, shall we? Quite full, quite barley. There's a bit of distillery character there, you know, as in that sort of slight cardboardy kind of character. It's quite oily, not quite fainty, but there's a lot of oils, which is kind of holding the fruit kind of down, and allowing that sort of slightly cardboardy note to come through. I mean, it's not a bad bottling. It's Jura. It's just as Jura seems to be, you know. So you can certainly say it's got plenty of distillery character. Again, slightly herbal, just a slight smokiness coming through. But it's just that cardboardy note, you know. It's just, you're not going to get away from it. Palate. A little bit bitter on the finish. It's got some barley. It's got some citrus. It's oily. There's not quite enough to kind of cover up that cardboard character. I mean, the thing is that sort of like, you know, if you've got lots of fruit, lots of oak and things like that, you can certainly, to a certain extent, kind of like, okay, yeah, okay, it's that Jura character, but it's just not enough of that. Yes, it's got some nice coffee on the finish and spices. A little bit of green fruit, some green apple possibly, some more citrus. Again, it's not a bad whiskey. It's just, it is what it is. It's Jura, you know, and you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. You know, maybe hate's probably a bit too much of a strong word. It's just not a style that I particularly am a fan of, shall we say. Like I said, unless there is plenty of something else just to kind of counteract the distillery character in inverted commas. So not a bad bottling. It is Jura after all. So maybe one is expecting a little bit too much. Now, talking of expecting a little bit too much, Tobermory. Oh, another fully paid up member of the Axis of Evil, as you well and truly know. Let's see what this gives us then, shall we? Quite oily, quite heavy and dense. The spirit certainly is. Yes, there is a little bit of earthy, musty, sort of cardboardy character, but there's plenty of citrus. There's some oak. Again, slightly herbal notes. Bit of barley, bit of coffee. I mean, I think by Tobermory standards, that's actually quite a pleasant nose. It's kind of, yeah, it has balancing elements. It has elements that maybe the Jura didn't quite have. It's got some maturity. It's got some baked fruit. Yeah, it's not going to be a style that I, you know, amazingly sort of like fall in love with. But you know, I can kind of live with this. Like I said, by Tobermory standards, this is not a bad nose at all. Palate. That's a lovely citrus finish. Oh my God, lovely citrus finish. Tobermory, whatever next. Yeah, okay, still got that slightly cardboardy character, but it's kind of wrapped up in that baked fruit and coffee, toffee kind of character. It's a bit hard, it's a bit sort of like the barley is kind of like a bit unyielding, and maybe there's not quite enough oak and honey to kind of again balance it up. But you know, it's got some plus points, it's got some negative points, and I think, to be honest with you, I would say that the pluses of this particular bottling certainly outweigh the negatives, principally because of all that lovely citrus character which just freshens the palate up at the end, and you can still taste all the sort of slightly cardboardy, sort of murky kind of malty character kind of underneath it, but you know, it's kind of distracting in a way. And although I'm not exactly going to go and rave about it, I think by Tobermory standards, that's not a bad cask at all. Okay, so let's have a look at the Buna. It's 25-year-old Buna. I love old Buna. So let's hope this is a good one then, shall we? Oh yes, that's a lovely nose. I mean, this is everything that the Jura isn't, and to a certain extent the Tobermory isn't. Oh, it's just wonderfully juicy. There's citrus, there's almost tropical fruits, there's barley, there's mango, there's melon, there's pear, there's a bit of sweet toffee, some lovely spices. I mean, this is just absolutely gorgeous, absolutely stunning. It's just so aromatic, so full, and I mean, you wouldn't have guessed. Well, you would guess it was 25-year-olds because the character of the fruit, the sort of, you know, it becomes quite tropical over time, but it just still has that lovely freshness, a little bit of salt, some honey, balanced oak. It's just so harmonious. It is absolutely gorgeous. A little bit of green apple coming through now. Lime. Wow. You know, that is a really good cask. That is complex. Palate. Oh, that honey. Oh, bloody hell, that's good. Lovely, dusty, sweet, slightly bitter spices, bit of cocoa on the finish. Oh, the fruit, a little bit of peat smoke just coming through right on the very, very end. Again, just wonderfully fruity. Again, subtropical, lovely oak. Juicy fruit, honey. Oh, wow, wow, big, big, big wow. Again, it is just everything that Jura isn't, and it's a shame because I remember Jura was a lovely malt once upon a time, and like I've said previously, I've tasted some older bottlings of Jura which have indeed been absolutely fabulous. But you know, where's it all gone slightly askew with, shall we say? But coming back to the Buna, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, yeah, 25-year-old Buna is not going to be cheap. What, 200 and something maybe, I don't know off the top of my head, but I would guess it's probably going to be around there. But oh, that's good. And finally, the Laphroaig. As you well know, Laphroaig tends to be one of those, you know, very, very consistent distilleries. I mean, I think in the last 15 years, I think I've only ever tasted one slightly iffy bottling, and that was distillery bottling, it has to be said. But anyway, let's see what this gives us. Quite oaked for Laphroaig, and I often find that, well, you know, certainly with a lot of the Hunter Lang bottlings, they don't tend to have a great deal of oak character. They tend to use a lot of refill American oak and refill sherry, and so more often than not, you're getting a lot of the distillery character and a lot less of the oak. But sometimes Laphroaig can be quite oaky, but the distillery bottlings don't tend to be, and it's got a lovely sweetness. There's some big barley, there's some iodine, there's obviously herbal peat, menthol, iodine, medicinal notes, bit of manure. Oh, we always like a bit of manure with our Laphroaig. But it's not thin, and it's not sort of, there is some lovely weight underneath it. It's not the sweetest Laphroaig I've ever come across, and again, it's not the oakiest Laphroaig I've come across. But it's all really, really nicely balanced, and that's just a lovely package, it has to be said. I'm probably getting a little bit more oak coming through now. So I mean, although this was probably, I think, well, I would imagine a refill hoggy, it certainly doesn't come across as first fill, but certainly an active cask nevertheless. Palate? Again, all really nicely balanced. Lots of barley, quite a bit of fruit, lovely coffee finish. Quite soft on the peat, got a little bit of salt, a little bit of medicinal character. It's not a huge peat monster, it's quite subtle by Laphroaig standards, but that peat is certainly lingering. And yes, it's quite medicinal. There's a little bit of smoky peat notes as well. Some lovely barley. Oh, the finish is just like, it really is lingering. It's getting sort of more dustier and grittier and smokier as it kind of like goes on. So that's a damn good Laphroaig, it has to be said. Frankly, I wouldn't have expected anything less, to be honest with you. So yeah, great way to end the tasting, I think. Right, okay, so let's sum this little tasting up. Edition Spirits, well, their bottling's pretty good stuff, it has to be said, and I think if they carry on like this when they launch in the UK, well, there's no reason to suggest that they're not going to be as successful as, or the range is not going to be as successful as any of the other Hunter Lang ranges. Certainly, it's going to be a slight point of difference, I suppose, but the only thing is that it's an even crowded marketplace with the fact that the two companies are split. Although there's always room for yet another bottler. Whether I've got room on the shelf or not, or can shoehorn them in, I don't know. But again, it will all come down to sort of what they're releasing at the time, the quality of it, the price of them, what they're going to retail for, all that kind of stuff. So keep your eyes peeled. You never know; they may well appear on the Gauntley's list. But anyway, back to today's tasting. Linkwood, very, very nice. Can't argue with that. Kind of just a classic Linkwood. Plenty of citrus fruit, nice and fresh. Bit of oak. Job's a good one, as they say. Ben Nevis, yep. Again, can't argue with that one. Distillery character, certainly got that. Nice and bready, malty. Baked fruits, again, but nicely balanced by the citrus, and yeah, I certainly think that's an excellent bottling. The Jura, well, you can't argue that it had distillery character. I think I've said quite a lot about it. I don't think it's certainly not the worst bottling of Jura I've ever tasted. Whether it's the best, I've got absolutely no idea. I don't think it is what it is. It's Jura, and I suppose to a certain extent you can say the same about the Tobermory. It is what it is. That's a distillery character. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Certainly the quality of both of those spirits is pretty good. So you can't argue with that. Obviously, standout bottling of this afternoon had to be the Bunnahabhain. I mean, just absolutely stunning. I mean, really very, very good. If this is available in your market and you can get your hands on it, and you love old Bunnahabhain, definitely a must buy in my opinion. And the Laphroaig, yeah, well, again, lovely sort of late teens Laphroaig. got some weight to it, some just all round really nicely balanced. It's got peat, oak, barley. Yeah, what more can you say? So yeah, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the show, and like I said, this is a UK exclusive. These will be, well, not these particular bottlings, but these will eventually appear on shelves in the UK sometime after Christmas, I believe. So yeah, there you go. Next week I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Oh yes, I do. I do know what I'm actually doing, but I'm not going to tell you yet because you'll have to wait and see. So all that's left to say is I hope you've enjoyed this little episode of the show. Good dramming, and the booner is all mine.